Fanalysis, combining the analytics of fantasy football with the metrics of sports betting. Sports handicapper Geoff Sheasby is joining me via Skype right now. And Geoff, you detailed in our other segment why you were strong on the Colts over the Jets at 10.5. That line started at 7. It has continued to move up. But at what point would you maybe consider jumping on the Jets side of things?
Yeah, great question there. We obviously outlined a lot of points about the Jets' inability to move the ball, right? And, when you look at their first two games, they lost by 10, they lost by 18. They weren't in either of those literally from the kickoff. And both of those included a fourth quarter score in garbage time. So where am I comfortable taking the Jets? I think it needs to be north of 14 for sure. Under 2 scores, I think the Colts should be fine, especially, seeing how they've played so far. Week 1, kind of rough for them, but, growing pains, new quarterback in a new system. But week 2, they came out and absolutely throttled the Vikings. Their defense is elite. Phillip Rivers looks great. And I think they can, I think even at 10.5, we have a bit of a gift. So 14.5, I would start to look at the Jets. But I think we definitely need at least a 2-score cushion. If it gets any higher than that, 15, 16, it won't. That would be historic line movement at this point. But maybe look for a live line after they go down 14-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah, is that how a pro can play things? Keeping an eye on the line, betting the line early at a low number, and then watching Joe Public move that line up, and then betting the other side, and maybe you can middle things out.
Yeah, 100%. And, this is one of those unique opportunities where not only do you have a Colts team that's playing well, but you also have a team like the Jets who are super banged up. So when you see that opening line at -7 with a lot of public support on the Colts, you can predict that line should move more. I obviously didn't lock it in at 7. I'm locking it in at 10.5. But if you can get ahead of those kind of things and find a middling opportunity, that's 2 birds for 1 stone.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get to the Giants. And they're 3.5-point home dogs to the Niners. A Niners team that is completely undermanned, and they're playing in the same MetLife turf that Coach Shanahan blamed for their injuries. Are you looking at that, or are you looking at the fact that the Giants are going to have Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, there's a lot of noise going on in this game. You've got literally the NFL opening an investigation into MetLife's turf. Who knows? It's a new turf field. Sometimes those are sticky, and if you get a sticky turf, your cleat snags. All of a sudden, there goes your knee, right? But the noise is on both sides. Of course, Saquon Barkley went down. The Giants averaged only 2 yards per carry after they left against a pretty good Bears defense, of course, but. I think the bigger X factor for Barkley is almost in the passing game. With his screen passes, he's got the ability to take something that's a 2-yard out for an 85-yard score. But, it's a small line. This is one of the best teams in the league with the Niners playing against the Giants. The Giants have looked scrappy. Their defense is currently 7th in defensive efficiency. I thought at first perhaps it was Big Ben's rust in week 1, but it turns out their defense looks pretty good. And then, when you look at San Francisco here, they're 9th in defensive efficiency, but they got to play the Jets last week. So I think that number is very inflated. They're 20th in offensive efficiency, obviously great running backs, but you're looking at Mostert, who's out. You're looking at Coleman, who's most likely out. You've got probably Jeff Wilson Jr. and McKinnon splitting carries. Both good. I don't think that's too big of a downgrade, but Jimmy G's also out. You've got Nick Mullins starting. He's efficient. But so is Danny Dimes. We're looking at Danny Dimes throwing the ball well to Slayton, throwing the ball well to Tate in his first game back, throwing the ball well to Ingram. So when you've got an 20th ranked offensive efficiency versus, of course, the 31st ranked for the Giants, it just strikes me as a small line for a reason. Vegas isn't giving out free money. The Giants go out and sign Devontae Freeman, after this injury, which is a win now type of move. So I like the mentality that this Giants team is bringing in. They are showing life in every game. Joe Judge has them feeling pretty motivated. It's always interesting to see Jason Garrett as an offensive coordinator on the Giants rather than the head coach of the Cowboys. But I think this team can start clicking. I think they can keep this close. It's not my favorite play of the week, but I would certainly look to the Giants at +3.5, +4.5 as of this morning. But anything over 3, I think the Giants is a pretty good play.
Maybe this season more than ever because we didn't have a preseason. The NFL looks like it's starting to become a war of attrition in just 2 weeks of play. Are you going to be keeping an eye as much on the injury report as you are on the metrics that we see in the games themselves?
Yeah, without a preseason, it was hard to kind of figure out if the teams you thought they were, who they thought we were, right? To quote, one of the great implosions in a post-game interview.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I think it's interesting as well to see kind of motivation spots. You look at the Saints last week going out against the Raiders and losing, but that was sandwiched between two huge games for them. The Packers, this week and the Bucs in week 1. So you're not understanding who's good and who's not versus kind of figuring out those motivation spots early season is definitely a challenge. But it's one of those things that just tread lightly. We don't have as much data as we'd like. We probably won't have as much data as we'd like until, week 7, week 8, week 9. And even me personally, last year, I saw a significant improvement in my back half of the year, went 500 in the first half of the season and hit about 56% in the back half. So certainly don't put your 401k, don't put your mortgage on any of these early season bets, but bet responsibly, try to find that edge. And that's usually a combination of the eye test as well as looking at the data.
I like that. That's great advice for the first half of the season. It's almost Breaking Bad advice. Tread lightly. Geoff, great job once again. Thank you so much. And that's a look at how he sees the Jets and the Giants games. Make sure you check out our other segment on his top plays of the week. For Geoff Sheasby, I'm Steve Overmyer. This is Fanalysis.